What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jared, and in this episode, I can't believe it, but I'm actually not going to say we're working on the transom assembly for once. Back in 2017, I began a full restoration of my 96 Bayliner by tearing it apart all the way down to the hull. From there, I began the rebuilding process, which included learning to fiberglass, rebuilding an engine and outdrive, learning to fare and paint, and even upholstery. Now, I've bought a 28-foot cabin cruiser, and I'm starting all over. Welcome, my name's Jared. Now get ready, because it's going to be a ship show. We are finally going to dive into the electrical system for the boat, and that is going to be a whole project. So I'm really dipping my toes into waters that they've never been in before. And by that I mean, we're talking lithium battery banks, inverters, DC to DC converters, all kinds of stuff that is very new to me. That being said, I've been spending a lot of time reading I don't remember the name of the book. I'll pop it up on here, but it's like a systems design book by Nigel Calder, who's like the guy for boat systems, if you don't know. Anyway, I've been studying this stuff for a while. I've ordered this stuff, had it sitting in my basement for, 6 to 10 months, somewhere around there. I've just been kind of putting it off till I got to a point where I was ready to install it, and I think now is going to be a good time to start working on that for multiple reasons. One, I can do a lot of this stuff preemptively in the garage, kind of inside, and then I can move that in the boat where it's going to live, which is physically inside the cabin. So if I need to be out there and working and stuff for a while, I can throw a space heater in there and be reasonably comfortable. So the last couple of weeks, I have been spending some of my free time laying out a design for what I would like to implement on the boat and where I would like it all to live. Now, a big part of that is taking the equipment that I have and trying to figure out how much space it's going to take up, orienting things to find a good layout, which will lead to nice wiring runs, keeping things within the ABYC standards if possible, things like that. So I'm trying to plan this as much as I can. Now, obviously, there's always going to be hiccups that you're not going to avoid, but one thing I found that was really helpful, now I don't know if I've said this before, I am a mechanical engineer by trade, that's my day job. I do a lot of CAD work, so I'm very comfortable with CAD. And I found out that a lot of these components that I plan on using, whether it's Blue Sea battery switches, Victron inverter, whatever, there's pretty much a CAD or a step file out there for almost all this stuff. So my initial thought once I figured that out is, hey, let's just download all this CAD. Let me model a panel that represents the kind of usable area I have, lay everything in there and kind of spin and move things around until I find an orientation that I like and make sure that it's physically going to fit where I want it to go. Now, that was not a small amount of work. It took a lot of iterations. I'd say I probably tried 50 to 60 different iterations or versions of things moved around until I found something that I was happy with. Now, where this is going to live is in the aft cabin. There's sort of like a storage compartment area that used to just house the air conditioner for the cabin. So I'm going to be taking advantage of that space as a nice, very enclosed, dry space, but we'll get good airflow because it already has louvered vents in it from the AC. So it's kind of like a no-brainer. And there's easy runs to both the instrumentation, to the interior electrical panel, and to the engine bay. So it's kind of optimal. So now that I have the location determined and the rough measurements for the amount of space I have to work with, I laid that out again in CAD, designed the panel that everything's going to mount to, and at this point I'm pretty much ready to cut that panel out of plywood. Now, it's not going to be as simple as cutting it out and just screwing it to the side of the boat because it's a boat, right? So everything has curvature to it. Now, fortunately, this area is not too bad, and I have something here to maybe help this come across a little better. So this panel right here actually came off sort of the ceiling of that compartment. Now, this edge here is a perfectly straight edge that goes up against another interior panel, and this edge here actually goes up against the side of the hull. I don't know if this is going to show up, but camera lenses kind of add curvature and stuff to things, but you can see there's a very gentle curve to that edge, and that's roughly the same curvature I'm going to have to match with this panel. So that's going to be a tricky part, and I think I have a plan for that. But before we get too much more involved in the details, let's get the general shape of this panel cut out, and then we'll talk about how we're going to get these measurements. Okay, got our panel rough cut out here. Pretty happy with it. But one thing I need to do that's going to be a little bit complicated is I need to capture that curvature that we talked about before in the hull. So I can make some sort of a block behind this that this will screw into, and that blocking will be affixed to the hull itself. The one side of the blocking is going to be curved to match the shape of the hull, and the other side of the blocking facing this is going to be nice and straight, so it'll be a nice flat backing for this plywood panel. So the best way I can think of to do that is I am going to drill a series of holes probably every 2 inches. I think that's going to be good enough. I want to drill those holes because once this is up and in position where I want it, I'm going to try and fixture it in that position, hold it still, and then I'm going to take a pair of calipers and use it as sort of a depth caliper measurement where, you know, the bottom sticks at, actually. So these are those like $4 calipers that everybody gets from Harbor Freight. So if you're not familiar, you can actually use this little stem here as a depth measurement. If that doesn't make sense, you'll see eventually, but what I want to do is, obviously I'll have to subtract the thickness of the plywood, but if I have a hole every couple inches here, I'll just go down through the boat, push this stem down through the hole, and bottom out the caliper, take that measurement, and what that's going to tell me is the distance from this surface to the hole behind it. So I can take those measurements every few inches, like I said, and then I can translate those measurements and create a curvature, a nice fair curve on a piece of blocking. That's the plan of attack for now. I don't know if I'm overthinking it, if it's overkill, but I think it's going to work out. And then I'll also have to do the same thing on the bottom here. Alright, pardon the cell phone footage, but we are in tight quarters here. As you can see, I got my plywood panel and it fits nicely in here. Now, before I can start taking any measurements, I need to get this in a position that is basically where I want it to live vertically. The best idea I have at this point is I'm going to take a square and just temporarily hot glue it to this to help support this. So, got my hot glue gun heating up here, and once it's ready to go, I'll throw some hot glue on the square, and I'm going to put one down at the other end as well. And once that's done, it's time to start taking measurements. Okay, I think that's going to be steady enough to get what I need, so let's take these calipers and start getting some measurements. Got a pencil here, and we're going to write them down at each hole. This is going to take a while. All right, well, got my measurements here on the board, and after scouring my wood pile of scraps, these are the two pieces I found that I think are going to be able to work. I didn't have a whole lot of stuff with enough thickness that I felt good about it, so kind of plain down milled, squared up as much as I need to. There's a couple spots here that the planer missed, but are going to get cut off anyway. So I went down, marked my corresponding notch marks to line up with these holes. So now I just need to go down and mark each point based on my measurement, and then we'll take it to the bandsaw, try and cut that curve as fair as possible. And then I think it's just a test fit and kind of fine tune from there. So lots more measurement and marking. Yay. Alright guys, I am like ecstatic right now. So I went ahead and screwed these two pieces of wood, my curved whatever, what we just did. Screwed them to my plywood panel, and actually the first time I screwed them to the completely wrong side and then went to try it, and obviously that didn't work. So I came back, fixed it, and I went into the boat, and I'm not going to show you this because it's such a pain in the butt to carry the camera gear, lighting, all this stuff up on the boat because it's so dark in there. So I just went and tried it. It fit absolutely perfect. I couldn't be any happier. Like literally I couldn't even get any corner to like rock at all. It's absolutely awesome. Now that I know that it fits good, I'm going to remove these two rails now. I want to take a router to them and just kind of ease some of these sharp edges off. And then I'm going to give everything here a good coat of epoxy. And I think I'm even going to put a layer of fiberglass 6-ounce cloth on the front side that everything's going to mount to. One, just to add a little bit more waterproofing to it. Two, to make it a little bit stiffer, less likely to warp on me. And then three, it's just going to give a little bit more meat to this for screws to hold on to, because this plywood's like okay, it's pretty soft pine. It holds fine, but just a little bit of belt and suspenders, especially because the inverter is really heavy. Anyway, the main thing is epoxy to waterproof everything really well. Then we will get the cloth on there and get it finally mounted into the boat. So let's get this torn down, get the epoxy coating going. We have to do that inside because it's too cold out here for that. Anyway, super happy. Alright guys, we got this thing coated in fiberglass, epoxy. It is looking good. I can't really do anything with this for, I think it says 5 to 7 days till I can overcoat this with paint. I guess the epoxy has to fully cure. So while I wait, I figured this would be a good time to lay out some of the holes for some of the major components. Things that are going to be, like, I know exactly where they're going. There's a few things that if you saw in that like quick clip of the model I made, like smaller stuff that I can shift around a little bit, like battery switches and things, but the inverter is kind of like the big boy that needs to be in just the right spot for cable routing and stuff like that. So that is one thing I definitely want to get on here laid out. It looks good in the model, but this is real life, so we want to make sure that it is okay. So I got up on the computer here like a quick drawing I threw together with some dimensions as to where those mounting holes go. Now I have the inverter back here behind me, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure to this kind of first corner. There's 4 mounting points. Now let's go on a side tangent here. So the Victron inverter that I'm using, the Multiplus II, is meant to be ideally mounted vertically for heat dissipation, so you kind of get the natural convection of air flowing up through it and out the top. Now I don't have the room for that where I'm putting it, so the manual says it's okay to put it on its side, it's just preferred vertically. So I'm going to keep an eye on it. If heat starts to become an issue, I think it'll be as simple as just throwing a fan in there to help kind of cool off that little storage cabinet. Now, the reason I'm bringing that up is the Multiplus II has a French cleat style bracket on the back of it that you screw to whatever the mounting panel is, and then it kind of like hooks onto the bracket, and then you put 2 screws in the bottom to kind of lock everything together. Now, because I don't have gravity on my side, I don't trust that bracket. Now, it doesn't say you can't use it, but there's actually 2 more mounting holes at the top side of it that I'm going to use, so there will actually be 4 screws going in through the Victron inverter. Now the downside is you have to remove the cover to get to those. So now backtrack to what I was saying is I'm going to lay out that first corner based on my measurements here. I'm going to mark that one and then use a square following this edge so I know it's nice and parallel. Mark the second one, and then instead of measuring the other ones and potentially getting some error there, I'm actually going to take the inverter, set it on here, look down through those 2 mounting holes, line it up to my first 2 marks, and then I'm going to use the inverter to mark the other 2 holes. That way I know everything's perfectly lined up and square. And then I'm going to drill those holes, and I don't have them yet. They're coming tomorrow from McMaster Car, but I'm going to be using stainless steel T-nuts. So if you don't know what a T-nut is, it's one of these things. You'll see them in wood stuff a lot. It's a threaded insert that has these little teeth on it. You hammer it into the wood from the back side, so then when you tighten the nut, it actually draws it into the wood, and those teeth prevent it from spinning. That was a lot of talking. Let's do it. Okay, that's those first 2 holes marked. Let's get the inverter down here. So it's definitely good I am going this route, not going off of measurements, because I can already see that these 2 holes are not perfectly lined up. I'm going to favor this hole just to get it a little bit further away from the edge. It's only, I don't know, probably 1/4 inch off, but that looks good there. So now I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that it's running parallel to this, which it should be. Okay, that looks good. So now what I'm going to do is actually take one of these transfer punches, and that way I can mark the center of the hole. Make sure those holes are marked pretty well. Okay, those holes clearly marked, labeled, not going to lose them. I'm going to throw the cover back on this because I don't want to damage anything in here. With those holes marked, I am going to drill through the board with a pretty small pilot bit so I can see on the other side where those holes are located. And then I'm going to go in with a 3/4 inch Forstner bit. The purpose of this is because this is going to give a little bit of a recess behind the plywood for kind of the head of that T-nut to pull into. I think it's time to start the fun stuff, but that is gonna have to wait till the next video. I need to get more things delivered, paint, primer, little odds and ends before I can really start moving forward with this. But this is the exciting stuff. We got bus bars, battery switches, custom 3D printed spacers, more battery switches, Victron shunts, that kind of stuff. This DC to DC charger with another 3D printed custom base thing that goes here, I think. The inverter you saw. This is the fun stuff. Sorry, I'm like nerding out, but I'm really looking forward to this. Anyway, this is gonna be in the next video though. We're cutting it here. It's getting too long. So that is definitely gonna do it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been a fun video for me. I hope you guys found it interesting. It's finally kind of a nice change of pace from the transom assembly stuff, which is nice. Now, like I mentioned in the next video, we should have the paint and primer by then, all the hardware we need to really get this stuff started. Now the inverter, I'm not gonna put that on until it's in the boat just because it'll be too heavy to kind of manipulate this, but I may start mounting some of these other components onto this board outside the boat, which will be nice because again, the weather. Yeah, this is so much fun for me. I hope you guys are having fun too. Hope you enjoy this. Thanks again for watching. If you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe to these videos. Hit that notification bell so you guys are notified next time I put more stuff like this out. And that's about it. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks guys. Bye.